Tim Tebow was just on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schulz and his posse yesterday. It was released. It was very good, the whole thing. There was a lot of moments that would make you tear up when you're listening to it, and you just get a lot of gems from Tim Tebow all the time. He is a man of great wisdom and purity, wholesomeness, a good guy all around. We're going to take a look at this. Something that he said that Andrew brings up to him, like, when you were in college, your first year, you weren't starting immediately. And how did you deal with, you want to be on the field, but the guy ahead of you is out there. And maybe you're like this. Maybe for you, you're a person that is like this as well. You want a position in life, but someone else is ahead of you. Tim Tebow drops some very good wisdom that might help you. It helps me definitely change your mindset. And lastly, before we end today, we're going to get into why I believe if Tim Tebow was not blackballed in the NFL, he would have been the greatest quarterback in NFL history. But we'll get to that at the end. All right, here's Tim Tebow when Andrew Schulz brings to him that question.
Okay, so first year, I want to just talk really first year. When you were the backup the first year, like you seem like a team guy, right? I imagine like you want to root for the other players on the team, but you're also someone who believes in yourself and ambitious, competitive. How do you manage that? Like, were there moments where you're like, yeah, I think I should start?
It's a really good question. And the answer is yes. And the answer is that it's very hard. And that I will also, and I still have to do this, I have to work on, like, I would try to show up with the mindset of like, I'm competing with Chris, but also for him as a team.
What do you mean? What do you mean for him?
That I'm on his team and he's on the same team I'm on. Like when I get to go in the game, I'm trying to do good for him so he gets to come back on the field, right? We're competing for each other.
Right.
Like in practice, you're competing against sometimes, but I think average competitors, and I mean this more in a mindset, not talent, average competitors want to beat someone when they're weaker. Elite competitors want to beat people at their best. And that I would challenge myself. No, I want him to do good. I just want to do better.
Are you?
And I think also to answer your question, I would try to show with the mindset and the kind of the renewing of my mind every day to say like, no, I'm going to root for him. I'm going to praise him. I'm going to encourage him. I'm going to want the best for him. Am I going to want to do great? Yes, but I'm going to choose to root for him.
But it's a choice.
It's a choice.
That's the thing.
It's not always emotion. Your emotions and our pride and my ego and all of that, it can get to you. And if we're not fighting.
Okay. So right there, that is some great wisdom and just something that anybody can take into their life. I don't know about you, but me personally, I have to squelch or squash the voices in my head that want bad for people that are out there. And that's showing you my soul, my heart, that I don't immediately want the best for everyone because it's jealousy. I want something that they have. I want to be in that spot that they're in. And Tim Tebow he gives a perfect example. Him coming into college, the starting quarterback, I think his name was Chris Leak, and Tebow had the mindset, and he had to force himself to have that mindset, that choice, that I'm going to root for Chris. When he's out on the field, I'm rooting for him. When I go out on the field to do my plays, my utility plays, I'm going to be doing the best I can to put him in a good spot for winning. And I think that is what he said was so incredible, that the greatest people want to beat people at their best. You don't want to just win against somebody when they're in a terrible spot. When Michael Jordan has the flu and he can't go out there in Game 7, you want to beat him then. You want to beat him when he's at his prime. And I think that's the difference between, great athletes, great players, and just mediocre, maybe guys that have good talent but don't have a fiery mindset like Tim Tebow. He got, and we're going to move a little bit past this because we're going to look at the next clip, which was talking about Tebow. He brings up that people will say to him, what was it like playing for the Jets? You went to New York, big time, baby. And he doesn't really know. And this has been just completely whitewashed of NFL history that went right under our noses. And I think a lot of people were okay with it because they didn't want to deal with the reality of what was Tebow mania. This is like over a decade later that I'm talking about this. But when we were in the thick of it, Tim Tebow, I'm just going to lay it out for you right now. What went down with this man? He went into the NFL a first-round draft pick. He wasn't just a sixth-rounder like Tom Brady or what's his Purdy? I forget his name. I forgot his name. Purdy, the guy for the 49ers. That just a first-round draft pick because so he has credentials. He has pedigree. And he goes out there his second year in the league and takes a team that was 1-4, not a good football team. He takes them to the playoffs, wins game extremely unconventionally, terrible stats, but he wins, gets into the playoffs, beats the Pittsburgh Steelers in a playoff game. And this was an extremely good Steelers team. This wasn't just a bad team. This had Ben Roethlisberger. They had an incredible defense. He beats them in a playoff game. Then, the next game, his second year in the league, first-year starter, his second game in a divisional playoff game, he loses to Tom Brady in his prime. Which, I mean, you could say Tom Brady, I don't know if he ever went out of his prime, but, I mean, he was definitely in his prime at this time. And he got destroyed, got killed, murdered by Tom Brady in the playoffs, the divisional round, that next game. He was a first-year starter, and then Tim Tebow never saw the NFL field again. He never saw it again. As a starter, as a starting quarterback, he never saw it again. And if someone looked at that and you didn't have just blinders on and you weren't just, because that was the thing about Tebow. He was so polarizing that people either loved him or hate him. They were immediately either wanting him to lose, wishing the worst for him, or they had blinders on and they wanted him to win at all costs. They wanted, because he represented Jesus Christ more than anyone has ever on his sleeve represented Jesus Christ. And I think that is why there was a coordinated attack by the NFL, conspiracy that happened. That's just my point of view. That's what I believe actually happened. They did not want this a part of the league. But let's hear what Tim Tebow says when he brings up about, he kind of sums it up a little bit about his career in just a few short sentences.
It's funny. People are like, what was it like playing for the Jets? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't play for him. I just stood there for him.
So this actually is I don't know if this is football, but you got no second, third place votes for the Heisman. NFL, I felt like you won a playoff game. I think it was your first year starting.
Yeah.
And then Elway comes in, he wants Manning, whatever. Do you feel like there's a
good choice for him?
No, well,
pretty dang good. good choice.
Well, they did win the Super Bowl,
yeah.
And I think Peyton Manning is one of the all-time greats, but they kind of won it with him as a bus driver a little bit, which I feel you could have done. Do you just in general feel like
Thank
maybe
you for the kindness.
yeah, which do you feel like yeah, I get the
ability to insult everybody.
And I think you could. Do you feel like there's
so this just like falls from the sky of Peyton Manning, who's been on the Colts for all these years. There was a lot going into it, but it just falls into the lap of John Elway to have an excuse to get Tebow out of there. This just happens in the offseason after Tebow just took this 1-4 Broncos team to the playoffs, wins a playoff game, and he never it was very convenient. That's all I will say. And then he goes to the Jets. I think he made a mistake. Hindsight is always 20/20. Monday morning quarterbacking. But I think he should have went to the Jags, But I think they would have done the same thing to him. It wouldn't have mattered. He was a first-round draft pick, which this was a guy that won arguably the greatest college football in NFL history, greatest quarterback in college football history. He goes into the NFL and it was, I just believe there was there was an influence of just darkness that wanted to stop light, this much light of being this much of a person that just is bold for his faith. There's people out there that are bold for their faith, that they talk about God, they talk about Jesus, But there was a difference with Tim Tebow. There was a difference with him because people would feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable because of this pedestal that we have this guy on, because he represents Christ so strongly. And we can always look back and say, oh, things just happened that they went perfectly to somehow get him and scoot him out under the rug, out of the league, because he went to the Jets, didn't see the field ever. Mark Sanchez has a terrible season. The Jets are terrible. Tebow doesn't even see the field at all. And then a few other, he goes to the Patriots, he goes to the Eagles, and it's all just just giving little crumbs to people just to say, oh, we weren't colluding that much to have him removed. We weren't colluding that much. But it's undeniable what they did to him when you really look back at it. I know he had terrible stats, but he won. He won. And if we're going to be a person that like thinks championships, thinks winning is the biggest thing, is your stat line more important than how many rings you have? I mean, seriously, what is more important? And I think that if Tebow was legitimately given the shot, and it was every game, it was uncomfortable. If you're an NFL coach, you want a prototypical quarterback that just stands tall and just is able to throw, pinpoint accurate passes. You didn't want to have like this, like a heart attack every game because you're in the last second. It was a David versus Goliath every game. It was miraculous almost in every game. And that was probably uncomfortable for coaches, for GMs, for owners. But I mean, it's what he did overall and what he would have brought to the game. He was ahead of his time. And for me, it was purely the Christianity he wore on his sleeve. I think he would have, if he was given the opportunity, he would have been turned out to be the greatest NFL quarterback ever. If you base it purely on winning and championships, and ultimately just championships, I believe he would have been the greatest ever. Call me crazy, but I'm not. I'm speaking truth. That's the reality of the matter. But it's reality a lot of people don't want to hear. All right, we'll leave it at that. Follow me on X and Instagram at Brandon Fogel. Like, subscribe, share this with everyone. Stay safe out there, everyone, and hope you have a great day.